This week, Catholic bishops are meeting in Baltimore to discuss the priest sex abuse crisis in the American church and will vote on measures to hold themselves accountable. Throughout the church, the Vatican has put in place new rules on reporting abuse. The most concrete steps the Vatican has taken to counter the crisis. Most of the attention has focused on child victims, but as special correspondent Christopher Livesay reports from the Vatican, now, in the Me Too era, there's a growing chorus of nuns speaking out as survivors of abuse as well.
They're known as brides of Christ, revered for their quiet service, not for speaking out. But that's beginning to change.
Well, I joined the convent in 2003, and I was raped in 2008.
Raped, she says, by a priest. A devout Catholic from Germany, Doris Wagner was 24 years old, living and working at this religious community just outside the Vatican.
And he came into the room, closed the door behind him, was sitting on my right hand on the sofa, and he just started to undress me.
When she told her superiors, she says the priest went unpunished, allowing him to rape her again and again.
But this whole time, the perpetrator was still living in the same... So you had to actually see your rapist...
Every day.
Every day.
He was preaching in the chapel. He was giving me Holy Communion. He was sitting at breakfast, at lunch, at dinner, at the same table. I was ironing his shirts.
Story after story like Wagner's is reaching a crescendo. In India, a bishop currently faces charges for repeatedly raping a former Mother Superior. And a recent investigation by the Associated Press found cases of abuse across 4 continents. Now, the Vatican can no longer ignore the scandal.
This year, Pope Francis made a shocking admission and acknowledged what had been a long-standing dirty secret of the Roman Catholic Church, that some priests had been sexually abusing nuns. It was a stain they could keep under wraps. That is, until the Me Too movement. Now, religious women are beginning to speak out, and a Nuns Too era has been born.
Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel here. It's me here, Lavender here, and today I'm back with another anti-capitalism deep dive true crime deep dive video topic. Today I want to do the pure evil files, the religion organization files, deep dive, capitalism, million-dollar mega churches and preachers, drug cartels, child abuse, religious trauma, unethical and forced adoptions, sex abuse cover-up, Sharia law, child marriage, honor killings, femicide, indigenous native boarding school atrocities, mission trips, Mother Teresa, capitalism, colonization, slavery ties, religious hypocrisy, and much more. So let's get started into this YouTube video topic. But before we get started, all my YouTube videos that are related to this topic will be on the screen right now. But if you want to check them out, they're on my channel. So let's get started in the topic at hand. The Catholic Church, linked to child labor in Uganda, alleges BBC children are working on a church-owned land in Kabale in southwest Uganda, according to the allegations made by the BBC by a nurse with the UN Refugee Agency in Uganda. Alex Tradejan, who is a former child soldier, alleged that children as young as 10 are working on a tea plantation from which the Catholic Church is profiting from. In a subsequent investigation, the BBC was told that land is owned by the Catholic Church, which has been in business with the Kigezi Highland Tea Limited since 2013. 15 children were found to be working on this tea plantation.
All parents have nightmares over any harm coming to their children, but now specific concerns about pedophilia are rising in Israel. That's because there's currently an oversight in the law that allows all Jews to immigrate to the country. One local children's rights group is claiming that 34 alleged pedophiles have taken advantage of this dark loophole over the past decade and are trying to turn Israel into a safe haven for sex criminals.
The Catholic Church is once again being buried in child sex abuse accusations across California. More than 4,000 people are suing the Catholic institutions across the state, enabled by a recent law that opened a window for survivors to sue their alleged abusers, no matter how far back in time the accusations go. Hundreds of Northern California priests are being accused for the first time, including some who are still working in churches and schools. In BC, Bay Area's investigative unit dug through new claims, which suggests decades-long scandal could go far deeper than public previously knew. Hundreds of priests are being publicly accused for the first time. Many face multiple accusations and allegations. The 5 most accused priests in the Child Victims Act lawsuits include, I'm only going to list 2, Fr. Gary Timmons Diquez of San Rosa, 70-plus new accusations. Reverend Megar Vanet Breen Dioceses of Oakland, 60 new accusations, and many more accused. Three Northern California Catholic dioceses have filed for bankruptcy since 2023. The Archdiocese of San Francisco, the Diocese of Oakland, the Diocese of San Rosa.
Who should be held accountable for this? Someone has to pay the price for the enormous damage done to these children.
Who doesn't want to protect just every kid that's there? And maybe if changes happen, maybe there won't be another one that suffers 5 more years because of this. So, sorry.
Taken by the defendants in case number.
Did he tell you in that meeting with you and Bishop Herod that he had sexually molested your oldest daughter?
Yes.
Paul Adams was a U.S. Border Patrol employee. He was sexually abusing his daughter and taking videos of the abuse. The Adams had a second daughter, and Paul Adams began abusing his infant daughter.
Most churches have some form of confession, and in this case, Paul Adams confessed to his bishop that he was, sexually acting out, and that included with his daughter, and that there may have been videotaping of the offenses with his daughter.
One would think that's enough to trigger an investigation, to call the authorities to comply with the mandatory reporting law. But instead, what the policy of this church is to call what's called a helpline. When the bishop calls the helpline, it's my understanding that it goes to an employee of the helpline. The employee then calls the Curtin McConkie law firm and says, hey, we have this abuse situation in Arizona, and the attorney then calls the bishop and tells him what to do, which in this case was, don't report it.
Recordings show how the Mormon Church kept child slave abuse claims secret. Paul Rodington, listed as a woman, voice quivering, told him her story. When she was a child, her father, a former bishop in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, had routinely slipped into bed with her while he was aroused. She said, a Utah attorney and the head of the church's risk management division, Rodington had spent about 15 years protecting the organization widely known as the Mormon Church from costly claims, including sexual abuse lawsuits. Audio recordings and meetings over the next 4 months obtained by the Associated Press show how Rodington, despite expressing concern for what he called John's significant sexual transgression, would employ the risk management playbook that has helped the church keep child sexual abuse cases secret. In particular, the church said it would discourage Miller from testifying, citing a law that exempts clergy from having a divulged information about child sex abuse that is gleaned in confession. Without Miller's testimony, prosecutors dropped the charges, telling Lorena that her impending divorce and the years that had passed since Chelsea's alleged abuse might prejudice jurors. Writing would also offer hundreds of thousands of dollars in exchange for a confidentiality agreement and a pledge by Chelsea and Lorraine to destroy the recordings of the meetings, which they had made the recommendation of an attorney with Writing's knowledge.
Well, developing news now, the leader of a Mexican megachurch has been charged for child sex crimes in Los Angeles again.
Why is pedophilia and sexual abuse so rampant in the houses of worship? More and more stories flood the media with accounts of sexual abuse associated with churches and synagogues. Many religious people are asking why. Why would men, and it's almost always men who are dedicated to religious life or organization, engage in an act that is so immoral? How can this evil have gone under the noses of their own religious institutions for so long? And the answer is quite simple: because conservative religions facilitate the abuse. How? By preaching men are in charge and not to be questioned. This worldview is particularly enticing for male pedophiles, abusers, and narcissists, and authoritarian types. How could they not join an organization that not only preaches their superiority complex in the home and the church, but also gives them unquestioned, easy access to kids with no accountability?
The practice of honor killings tragically occurs in other parts of the world, but is almost unheard of here in the United States. Until a case of a young woman in Arizona that had some wondering if the practice may have moved here. 48 Hours mystery correspondent Troy Roberts explains.
It was in this Peoria, Arizona parking lot that 48-year-old unemployed truck driver Falah Amaleki, a married father of 7, a man with no criminal record, rammed his Jeep into 2 women. Amaleki sped away from the scene, leaving the 2 severely battered women on the pavement. Eyewitness Chanel Nakamoto.
I heard just the sound of an engine speeding up, just I heard a thud. I saw a girl laying in the rocks, face down.
One of Amaleki's victims was his 20-year-old daughter, Noor. According to investigators, she had left an arranged marriage in Iraq several years earlier and had moved out of her parents' home after constant fighting about her lifestyle. The attack left Noor in a coma. 2 weeks later, doctors pronounced her clinically brain dead. Her family took her off life support.
The mystery is why, and what would possess a father to do something like this to his daughter.
Investigators believe that Noor Amaleki may have been the victim of an honor killing.
When a young woman strays from what her family expects and she tries to stand up for what might be her legal rights, her family may retaliate by killing her or hurting her in order to avenge her misbehavior and clean its own honor, redeem itself in the face of the community.
Primarily occurring in parts of the Middle East, South Asia, and North Africa, cases of honor violence are now being found in Europe, Canada, and the United States. Experts have no handle on the exact number of cases, but worldwide the UN estimates that at least 5,000 women are murdered each year in the name of honor.
I came here to the United States a month ago after I escaped my country, and I think it's time to expose what's going on there. The penalty in Saudi Arabia for somebody like me who opposed the government is beheaded.
There are so many things that women can't do in Saudi because it's law. They can't do anything without a male guardian's consent.
When I was in Saudi Arabia, if I want to even go to the supermarket, I have to inform everyone in the house.
The laws in Saudi are doing that systematically to discriminate against women. Nobody talks about it.
Guardianship system, it's a slavery. It's the worst human rights violation.
I felt like I was nothing but a commodity. What really scares me is that I wouldn't get this asylum and I would be returned and then I would die young.
If a person changes his religion from Islam to any other religion, the punishment should be death.
I was attacked from nowhere. I didn't see it coming.
I knew I had to get out or that was it.
What do you think your brother will do if they find out you're an atheist?
Kill me, maybe.
A young Syrian atheist called Rana. She says she comes from a very religious family who live in Saudi Arabia.
I think I first spoke to her actually about a year ago. She was having some troubles and she wanted to get out.
After her family made her attend the Grand Mosque in Mecca, she secretly took this photo. She's now on the run and has escaped as far as Turkey.
So Rana, you're in Turkey now. What are your plans next?
I want to go to country to protect me and to be safe in this country, and my family can't go for this country.
Thank you so much for talking to us.
We flew out with Imtiaz to meet her.
You look so different. So nice to finally meet you.
She's changed her appearance because she's nervous the local Syrian population may find out who she is. She says her family knows she's in Turkey, but they don't know that she ran away because of her atheism.
What do you think your parents will do, like your dad or your brother will do if they find out you're an atheist?
Kill me, maybe.
Are you being serious?
Yes.
Honor killings are a scourge in most Muslim countries and are carried out with impunity in Pakistan and other countries aiding in a femicide crisis. A look at the occurrence of honor killings around the world and around the globe and in Pakistan, according to the Human Rights Watch, honor killings are acts of vengeance generally committed by male family relative members against female family members who are accused of bringing dishonor upon the family. Almost 1,000 women are executed every single year by their male relatives in the name of honor. Since it's women who bear the brunt of this inhumane practice, honor killing is also referred to as femicide. Women are generally killed for refusing an arranged marriage, choosing a non-Muslim husband, refusing to wear hijab, promiscuity, or alleged adultery, or trying to leave or divorce an abusive husband. In 2000, the United Nations estimated that 5,000 honor killings were committed worldwide annually. Middle East Quarterly Report states that honor killings tend to be more prevalent in countries with a majority of Arab Muslim populations, which accounts for 72% of the cases worldwide. In many Arab countries, the practice of honor killing dates back to pre-Islamic times. Interpretations of these rules vary. Some Arabs regard it as their right under both tradition and Sharia law. Honor killing is rampant in Saudi Arabia, where a woman was killed in 2008 by her father for chatting online with a man on Facebook. In another incident, the Saudi religious police arrested two sisters, aged 19 and 21. Their brother shot them to death in front of their father when they left a woman's shelter in Rural Def because their arrest had been brought dishonor on the family. Honor killings are very common in Egypt. If caught in an extramarital affair or relationship, a woman is often killed by her male relative who is awarded a very light sentence, with judges often viewing the case with leniency. In Afghanistan, honor killings are a norm and go on a normal basis. The latest is that of a 14-year-old Afghan girl, Zara, who was tortured and burned to death by her in-laws. Her father claimed she was murdered for eloping with a cousin of her husband. In India, the recorded honor killings are about 1,000 per year. Women are killed for marrying or befriending males from different religions. India has taken a more assertive legal action, including awarding the death penalty to large numbers of persons who have concluded in murder. Pakistan is another country where women can be killed outside courts, burned to death by their mothers, and shot to death in the lawyer's office. About 1,000 honor killings are reported each year, but it goes without saying that most honor killing cases are not reported at all, especially in the rural areas. Kabale Alleged, born Freza Anam, was a bold young feminist known for her daring social media posts. She was unalived by her brother because she posted shameful photos and pictures on social media.
What you're about to hear is so shocking it's hard to believe. Children as young as 11 years old forced to marry the men who raped them.
Yeah, and what's even worse here, Florida law allows this to happen. New tonight, ABC Action News anchor Paul Legrone exposes the marriage license loophole that essentially legalizes child rape, and the local woman who's inspiring lawmakers to finally take action.
Far beyond the Hollywood glare of the Me Too movement, a different kind of sexual assault is coming out of the shadows in the Sunshine State. Buried right there in Florida marriage laws is a loophole that allows children under the age of 16 to get married if they're pregnant and if they have the consent of their parents.
It ended my life.
It happened to Sherry Johnson. Inside this Tampa church, her childhood was cut short.
I gave birth to my daughter at the age of 10, and then I was forced to marry my rapist at the age of 11.
To keep the abuses secret, Sherry says her parents forced her to marry a 20-year-old man. A man she says raped her. She became a wife and a mother by the 5th grade.
I didn't know until it was done.
You were a child.
I was a child. I had no idea how this was going to happen.
And it's not just Florida. Every state has loopholes that legalize child marriage. In fact, 25 states don't even bother to set a minimum age. In many cases, the marriages are nothing more than a cover-up to hide child rape by the very men the victims are forced to marry. The numbers in Florida are shocking. In the past 18 years, the state has granted marriage licenses to more than 16,000 children as young as 13. 80% are girls. In 2004, a 13-year-old girl married a 33-year-old man. Since 2015, records show Hillsborough County Court officials approved 86 marriages involving minors as young as 16. In Pinellas County, 51.
I have a lot of questions for the court. I have a lot of questions for the state of Florida. I have a lot of questions for the school. I have a lot of questions for the hospital where I gave birth at. I have a lot of questions for the clinic where I was going to get service while I was pregnant.
And in another cruel twist to the law, Sherry could not get a divorce until she was 18. By that time, she had 6 children with the man she was forced to marry.
Child marriage is a real problem in the United States, one that isn't talked about much. Like human trafficking, we assume that child marriage is something that happens in other countries, not here. Countries with adequate worldviews and gender norms, but it happens here all the time. At least almost 10,000 minors were married in the United States in the year 2010 alone, according to Unchained at Last, a nonprofit working up to stop forced marriages, which includes child marriages. The majority of child marriages are between teenage or younger girls and adult men. Between 2000 and 2015, 86% of the reported 207,000 child marriage cases that took place in the United States were between minors and adults. Only 14 were between 2 minors. Please note that this data is incomplete. 8 states did not provide data for the study. All too often, these girls are being married to their rapists because they are pregnant. It's a sickening loophole in the law that many states, the age of consent to marry is lower or does not exist. In several states, if the girl is pregnant, so instead of prosecuting her abuser, the victim is forced to marry him, despite the evidence that the man has, at the very least, committed statutory rape. And once married, the abuser is immune from any future statutory rape charges. To make the matters worse, the teenage bride often has to wait until she is at least 18 years of age to legally get a divorce. This link between evangelical Christianity and child marriage has been explored recently in the wake of stories and failed Senate candidate Roy Moore's proclivities. Evangelical communities still push for child marriages between girls in their middle teens and men in their mid-20s or older. According to these groups, younger girls make better spouses because they are blank slates and can be easily molded to serve their future husbands better. What's even more troubling in these communities is that the predominant narrative is that the young girl who is pursuing the older man, which means the pregnant 15-year-old is the one who sinned, by overcoming the resistance of adult men who had sex with her. Evangelicals are not the only religious group pushing for child marriage. Many Orthodox religions allow or encourage child marriage, and for families in these religions, the parents are the ones pushing for marriage, either to cover up a pregnancy or to increase their standing in the community. Betsy Lehman, for example, was married at age 17 to an older man as part of an arranged marriage in her Orthodox Jewish community.
Were outlawed in India in 1961, but the custom persists, and there are so many disagreements that it's become one of the biggest causes of violence against women. Figures are imprecise, but counseling centers for female victims of domestic violence say dowry-related cases make up between 25 and 40% of their clients.
It's not only the very rich that are doing it in order to make it appear like a status symbol, but even those who are working in their homes and those who are new rich are trying to ape them in order to show that they have some economic status in society.
Debt bondage and dowry abuse in South Asia and many other impoverished parts of the world, there are millions of people trapped in bonded labor, which is also known as debt bondage or debt capitalism slavery. A victim story of this: her parents could not afford the dowry for an educated and economically stable man, so they arranged for her to marry her husband, who is also illiterate and comes from a poor family. And in 2016, her daughter got married to a brick factory worker. Her in-laws asked for 200,000 rupees or 1,300 pounds for a dowry. It was very difficult to get all of these funds together. All of my sons and my husband contributed towards it as well, but it was not enough, so we had to get a loan for the dowry. 20,000 rupees with about 30% interest. We have paid back 10,000 rupees so far, but have 16,000 to pay back, and it keeps on increasing every single year. On the wedding day, my son-in-law said he was not attracted to my daughter because she is dark-skinned, but the wedding went ahead anyway, and the groom accepted the dowry. A year after the wedding, my daughter's in-laws started to abuse her and my family because she had a difficulty getting pregnant. Once the neighbors found out that she had still not gotten pregnant, they also joined in on the harassment. My daughter's husband had started having an affair, and he was no longer interested in helping or improving the marriage anymore, but did not want to divorce my daughter. We are planning to file a case so we can get her divorced and get the dowry back from her husband. I want my daughter to remarry, but right now we cannot afford the dowry. We need to first get the 200,000 dowry back from our current husband. It's been a very difficult situation. How dowries are fueling a femicide epidemic in India. In India, many thousands are killed in marriage payment disputes. Why does this war on women persist? In 1979, protesters poured through the streets of New Delhi with a simple message: "Stop burning women." On May 15, 1979, a woman was watching television when her mother-in-law allegedly drenched her in kerosene gasoline, and her sister-in-law set her ablaze with a match. She ran from the room screaming and was driven to a local hospital, where she survived just long enough to record a statement with police. The attack was said to have followed 5 months of bullying, needling, and belittling. She had brought to the marriage a decent dowry, the payment demanded by the groom's family, which included cushions, cookery, and a television set, but her in-laws considered it not good enough. They wanted more. According to reports at the time, they wanted gold, cash for their business, and two-wheeled scooter, and they did not hesitate to tell her. The mother-in-law and sister-in-law were later acquitted. Until 1979, such deaths were almost registered as accidents, described too as malfunctioning kerosene-burning stoves or as suicides. Her death might have gone unnoticed if it weren't for the Stree Sangharsh, a new women's rights organization. Patriarchy, sexism, misogyny all seem implicated in this war on women. Such terms are rarely and absolute. Patriarchy seeks of power over women. Sexism of discrimination against women. Misogyny of contempt towards women. Each afflicts women in India as elsewhere in the world. India's patriarchal customs conspire to trap women in marriages. According to the World Health Organization, between 1.25% of all Indian women suffer intimate partner domestic violence, yet only about 1% of marriages end in divorce. Although divorces are increasing in India, especially in urban areas, India's divorce rates is still among the lowest in the world. The norms that oppress women are multiple and various, but India to seem especially important: the stigma against divorce and a resistance to female independence. As long as women cannot leave marriages, they have a less reason to seek the training and professional experience that they would enable them to support themselves. Such women are easily treated as burdens, to be accepted as wives in exchange for a dowry. Even abused women have little choice but to stick it out. As the cycle continues, women become trapped